Hi friends! Today I'm going to teach you how to do the single crochet stitch using bulky weight yarn and a size K 10.5 needle. Now what I recommend is going up maybe a half to one whole size for the recommended needle. Go ahead and pull yourself out a tail long enough so we can weave it in later, and I'm going to show you how to make a slip knot. So wrap the yarn around your finger, place it over itself, lift up that first loop, and then I'm going to try to grab the yarn here. Oh, okay, well, use your fingers. Pull up the loop that's behind, and you'll create a nice little slip knot. Slide your hook into that yarn, and then grab the tail and pull it tight. You've just created a slip knot. Now we're going to do our chain stitches. So to chain a stitch, we're going to yarn over and pull the yarn through that loop. It's as easy as that. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And just make sure that you're keeping that loop the same size as your crochet hook. Don't pull too tight on it, otherwise you're going to have really big chains. And we're going to do this 21 times. So we're going to have a chain 20, and we're going to add one chain at the end so we can do our round or our row 1 of single crochets. So now this is what our chain looks like. You can see there's little V's, and on the top there are little legs, so you can see these legs here. So what we're going to do, that first chain, we're going to skip it. So if you look closely, you see the V's there. There's all these different V's, so that's your stitches. So that counts as one stitch. So we're going to skip that first one, and we're going to go into the second chain. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. And what we've done is just create our first single crochet. So you can see that chain is a little bit stretched out there. And what we're going to do now is move on to the next chain, the next stitch, and we're going to place another single crochet. So we're going to insert, yarn over, insert into that chain 2, or that chain 3 space, and then now we're going to go into the chain 4. We're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. And then we're going to continue doing that all the way down. So we're going to actually do 20 single crochet into this chain. All right, so as we get to the end, you're going to notice that there's your little slip knot there, and then there's one stitch remaining. So it's really important that you get that last stitch. Go ahead and place your last single crochet into there, and then give your tail a little tug. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work. So now you'll notice that you have your chain 1 stitch there. We're going to skip that stitch, and then we're going to go into that first single crochet, the last one we did on that row. And here's what it looks like from the top. You've got all these beautiful V's going down the top of that work. And each one of those is a stitch. So what you're going to do is make sure that you skip that first stitch, skip this one, go under both legs of that stitch. So there's going to be 2 legs on the top. So go under that entire V. Make sure your needle is under that entire V. There's both legs. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And then you're going to keep going down each stitch, making sure you have both legs of that stitch on the needle. Insert, go under, and then yarn over and pull through. And now you're going to place single crochets all along the top. You should have 20. So go ahead and count if you have to. I would highly suggest it. Count to make sure you have 20 stitches all the way down. So I'm going to be showing you how to make a square here. So we're going to piece all of our Learn to Crochet squares together to form a nice little blanket. So if you want to, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can get notified when I release new crochet videos, new knit videos, so you can get the next block that we're going to make. So this is going to be block 1. So now we're ending this row. Make sure when you get to the end, take a look here and notice that there's a V and then there's a bump. So you want to make sure to work inside of that V. You see the V here? Make sure to work underneath that V. Place your last single crochet. It's very important, otherwise your work's going to be uneven. So this is what it looks like so far. We've got one row of single crochets. You can already see that texture starting to form. So now we're going to repeat again. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, skip that chain stitch, and single crochet into the first stitch. And then we're going to place single crochets all the way down once again. And we should still have 20 stitches. So make sure to count your stitches and make sure you have 20. And this is going to be the repeat for this particular block that we're working on. So keep doing your rows of single crochet and always make sure to get that last stitch. That last stitch is going to be important, otherwise your work's going to start to shrink. So here's what we have so far. We have 3 rows now, and you can see the fabric is starting to come together beautifully. You have all your little single crochets stacked on top of one another. If your piece doesn't look like this, if it doesn't look as consistent, that's okay. That's what practice is for. If you have to, just go ahead and rip it, which is called frogging your work. It's a play on words for the rip it. Sounds like ribbit. Okay, anyways, enough of that. Go ahead and keep working until your tension looks good, and this is it just a little bit more. You can see that fabric is coming together very beautifully. So I'm going to get myself a little ruler out here, and I'm going to measure how wide my block is. So my block is currently sitting at about 6.5 inches. Give that tail a little bit of a tug so I can get a more accurate measurement. So my block is sitting at about 6.5 inches. Yours might be a little bit wider, it might be a little bit smaller, depending on the yarn and your tension. So make sure to give it a good measure, because we're going to want to make sure that this square is 6.5 by 6.5. So I'm currently sitting at about 3. I need 3.5 more inches of work. So I'm going to keep working on adding my single crochets until my block is 6.5 inches. Now once you measure your block, you'll work it out to where you'll figure out how high you need your block to be. So mine just happens to be 6.5 inches. So I've worked my block out to be 6.5 inches wide by 6.5 inches tall. And there it is in all its beautiful glory. Now I'm going to show you how to finish off the edges and weave in the ends. So we're going to need a tapestry needle, and we're going to need a pair of scissors. Go ahead and pull out a little bit of a tail and break yarn. This is called breaking yarn or cutting yarn. So go ahead and snip your yarn and pull the tail through that last stitch. So you're going to have a beautiful little finished stitch on that end. Thread your tapestry needle with your tail. And what we're going to do is flip the work over. I'm going to choose, really it doesn't matter what side you do, but you want to make sure you weave in on the same side on both ends. So I'm going to thread that tail yarn underneath some stitches on the back. Now if you're working with a natural fiber like a wool, which I am here, this is 100% wool, this is going to be sufficient enough. Just a few stitches, because that wool fiber is going to catch and hook onto itself. So I'm going to thread under, and I like splitting my threads, so I go in between. I like split that stitch or that yarn to where it's going into that yarn instead of underneath it. And once I've got a little bit of tail worked in there, then I'll go back and work backwards. So now I'm going to go in here and split that yarn. You see how I stuck that needle in that yarn and pulled it through? So that's going to make it fit very nicely, and it's going to secure it a lot better. Now that's if you're working with natural. If you're working with acrylic, it's not going to work because acrylic won't bind to itself. After you feel like you've got a sufficient amount woven in, go ahead and break yarn, snip it, and now we have that end woven in. So we're going to flip over, go to the next, and we're going to do the same thing. If you found this video useful, if you enjoyed following this tutorial, don't forget to give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment and let me know how you liked the video. If you had any trouble, I'm here to answer questions. If you have any questions about the yarn or any of the materials I've used in this video, go ahead and leave me a comment and I'll reply quickly, very quickly. Go ahead and weave in that last end. And perfect. So I feel very confident that this is secure enough due to the fact that I am using natural fiber. So I'm going to go ahead and trim, and now my block is complete. So I would suggest wet blocking this, and I can link to another video where I explain wet blocking. But if you want, you can just lay something heavy on top of it, and that should flatten it out. But for right now, we're just going to toss it aside, lay it aside, and we're going to then connect this later to our blanket. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support my channel, check out my website where I sell hand-dyed yarn and all kinds of cool stuff.